and welcome back to The Real Franchise, a video series designed to deliver real information, real answers, and real insights into franchising. This series is brought to you by James Home Services Australia. I'm the CEO, and Justin is one of our owners and our head of new businesses. Together in this series, we tackle all of the big topics: unscripted, unplanned, and unfiltered. No sales and no fluff. We just give you the information straight up. Today's topic is kind of not a topic. It's actually a quick fire 20 questions. A few months ago, Inside Business Franchise magazine released a list of 20 questions that you should ask your franchisor if you're making inquiry about joining their network. Now, in true James fashion, we don't gatekeep information. So instead of putting the onus on you to ask us the questions, we thought, hell, why don't we just ask the questions and record it and make the information publicly available so that you can find it if you're looking for it and if you're interested. So to that end, I have the list of 20 questions on my phone. Justin, if it's okay with you, let's just dive straight in.
Let's go, because I haven't even read them all, so this will be good.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to get some very unscripted answers then. We certainly deliver in this series on what we say we're going to do, don't we?
That's it.
All right, question number 1. How long was the business operating before it became a franchise network?
That's a great question. So that's a bit a long time ago, because we've been a franchise for over 30 years. So a guy called Robert James started the franchise, hence James Home Services. And he started by actually trying to build a second stream of income through cleaning cars. And so he was literally door knocking the business area in Caloundra on the Sunshine Coast of Queensland and picking up, doctors and whatever, detailing their cars on site. And was starting to get a good little business going. One of the customers that he picked up was a guy called Greg Gardner. You may have heard of GJ Gardner Homes. And so they're, a worldwide building franchise now. And Greg Gardner said to Robert, because Robert was a bit of a young guy back then, and said, "You've got something good here. How about we create a franchise?" And Greg Gardner put up, I think it was $20,000 to start the franchise in 1993. And it sort of grew from there, from cleaning cars as a car cleaning franchise, and now by far our biggest franchise, as you know, is cleaning. So we do cleaning and lawn and garden care services, particularly, are our two big ones. Yeah. And that's where it came from.
Yeah, it's actually kind of rare these days to find a company that has been operating consecutively for more than 30 years in this country. And it's kind of a big deal. The sustainability factor there is significant. I think it's lovely for us to be able to say we've got all of that history.
Yep.
All righty, question 2. How experienced is the franchisor team? I think what that means is head office and especially the people that are responsible for supporting the franchisees.
Yeah. So we have a unique business model. All of our franchisees, and I think this is a later question, have a business coach working with them. Yep. All of our business coaches currently have over 10 years of experience in the franchising industry, particularly in working with these sorts of businesses. So you've got a wealth of experience that will be supporting you if you join our network. Myself, I was a franchisee myself. My wife and I joined James in 2010 after going through the same sort of information process. So we've been with the network for 15 years. Yourself, you've got years and years of experience in marketing and business management and all those sorts of things. I think Joe, who runs our call centre, has been with James now for over 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, it would be that long. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So we've got
prior to that, she's been working in customer service essentially her entire career. There isn't anything customer service that Joe doesn't know.
Yeah. So we do really good.
15 years experience. Our bookkeeping and accountant, she's got 15 years experience. I've got 10 years experience in senior management, and I've got previous experience in business management as well as small business service-based management as well. So even though this is my first CEO position, I certainly have earned my stripes throughout my career and worked in a variety of different roles that have given me a lot of different experiences across the different operational verticals. So it's it's interesting to consider that the CEO may well be the least experienced in the network in terms of actual length of tenure and position. But, I think that brings a nice fresh perspective and a lot of different skills. But overall, we offer up a pretty impressive team, actually. I pinch myself often thinking it's pretty fortunate that we have such a powerful head office team. There's no one in training. There's no one junior. There's no one, there's no one with less than 10 years of experience in what their current role is, which is impressive. We are a small but mighty team, that's for sure.
And one of the things I'm very proud of is I think we bought the national business 4.5 years ago, and we haven't lost any staff. We've grown our staff, but we've got the same individuals, and I think that's extremely rare in any organisation these days. We have people that love their roles, that throw their heart and soul into supporting our franchisees.
Yeah. For a company to have zero turnover in staff is practically unheard of across a 4.5 year period. I don't know another company that can boast that same position. So I'm really proud of that, because there's that old saying, you don't leave your job, you leave your boss. And I think that means that, the leadership and where we're taking the company, I think it demonstrates the collegiality in how we lead, and it's a nod to our horizontal structure, and just how well we work together and how much mutual respect there is throughout the team. So that's something I'm really proud of, actually. Alrighty, third question. What is your financial investment in the business? Justin, this is definitely a you question, being our head of new businesses.
Well, I thought this could be answered in two ways, because under the subscription model, we actually invest in the franchisee's business. So in the beginning, if you join us under a subscription, we have a much larger financial investment in your business than you do. In a sense, we put up the dollars to help you get started. So we have a very, very motivated to see you succeed. And in that manner, I can't think of any other franchise that has that sort of model. But I think where the question's going is, me personally as a franchisor, what financial investment do I have?
No, I think actually the question is what does it cost to get in as a franchisee? I think, think this is a question for the franchisees asking, and I think that the purpose is, what has the franchisee got to put on the table?
So under a subscription, 1,000 plus GST. Yeah,
simple. Yeah. And if you would like to buy your business up front, that's an option with us. And our interior cleaning and lawn and garden care models are 26,000 plus GST. And that's entirely your choice as to which way you go. I mean, for obvious reasons, we have most of our new franchisees joining under the subscription model. But as you mentioned before, actually what that means is we invest in you. We spend over $10,000 in the first 3 months you're in our network getting your business started and providing you with the equipment and the marketing collateral that you need. So we are highly motivated to make sure that you succeed as a business, because if you don't, then we're the ones with the cash on the line. It's a very unique position. There's no other network in the country that I'm aware of that has flipped the tables, and instead of asking for that upfront contribution has said, do you know what? We've got this. We'll cover the upfronts, and then let's just work together so that you can build a really successful, sustainable business. And then we both win.
Yes.
Yep. Alrighty. Next question. Who owns the intellectual property?
We do. James Home Services.
We do. We've worked so hard to build it. We do. And I guess really I might just explain for anybody listening. Intellectual property, what is it? In a real practical sense, intellectual property is our system, how we build your business. It's our brand, how we look, how we present to the marketplace. It's our computer systems. It's all the stuff that isn't physically touchable as an asset. Like a couch is an asset, a mirror is an asset. It's a physically touchable thing. But what our assets are in James is the system that we train you in. And it's our IP is our system. It's our resources. It's how we coach you. It's how we follow guidelines to help you develop your business. And all of that we've developed over the company's 30-year history, and we retain ownership of it. And in very simple terms, what a franchise agreement does is it permits you to use our system, our brand, our teachings, our training, and our coaching in order for you to operate a business using all of those things.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. When was the last brand refresh?
I'll let you answer that one because that's right in your wheelhouse.
Oh, that is my space. Two things I'm passionate about, marketing and law. And I did both at uni. And marketing, it speaks to the creative side of my brain, and law speaks to the practical, pragmatic, logical side of my brain. We refreshed our brand throughout 2020 and 2021. And we have undergone continuous improvements and refinements to how we're presenting ourselves to the market ever since. I think what this question is asking is because a risk in a lot of franchise networks is that you join and then the franchisor 6 months later says, guys, total brand overhaul, right? And your shop front, your vehicle, your collateral, everything about your business, you've got 3 months to make sure that you've replaced every bit of branding to be the new branding. So I think what this question is saying, ask your franchisor if there's a risk that they're going to pull that stunt on you.
Yeah.
In our network, no, there's not. We refreshed our logo and our look and our feel 3 years ago. We are really comfortable that it still reflects a very professional representation to the market. We're not going to refresh our logo at any time in the near future. We will always continue to update the resources that you use, the marketing collateral that you use, but we're not going to sweep in and just make a demand that you update things willy-nilly. That's not how we operate.
Yeah.
All righty, next question. Actually, this is a good one for you. I think really it's going to speak to our lawn and garden care business model. What peaks and troughs are there in the business?
Yeah. So lawn and garden that's one of the challenges, particularly for people in their first year, is it is a seasonal business, mainly revolving in Australia around our rain and warmth. So, for the southern states, it's as soon as it starts to warm up, things obviously get busier. So, for example, you and I agreed we won't start a lawn and garden business in most of Australia between May and August. All right. So if someone inquires, then we'll go through the process, but we'll have a start date probably September so that they're starting in spring and can have that full spring summer period to build up the customer base. And then to put in place the thing we call it, and in the training, we train our people in banking jobs for winter. Yeah. All right. So they'll then go into their first winter and minimise that decrease. Cleaning, I often get that question, is there seasonality in the cleaning business? And quite honestly, and I've had, 3 cleaning businesses myself and James, no. It does get busy before Christmas. You'll get a lot of people, your regulars saying, hey, I need a spring clean. I've got family coming to stay. Can you do a... So you get a lot of that pre-Christmas, but really it's just consistent. Most of your customers are weekly or fortnightly, and you're there consistently all year round.
Yeah. We do see, and if I talk kind of national figures, because that's kind of what I look at, and I look for observing trends. And at a national level for our cleaning businesses, there's a natural lull between Christmas and New Year. However, I believe that's reflective of our business owners choosing to take time out of their business and spend it with their families during that holiday period, rather than a decrease in demand. Because what I see throughout end of January, February and March is actually our busiest periods in terms of inquiry and then services completed for our interior cleaning. And whilst it's an increase, it's really only a marginal one. And it's not to say that there's seasonality. It's just to say that there seems to be a natural slight increase in inquiry in those first 3 months of the year. And I always just kind of put that down to people start new jobs in the new year, and then they think, I've taken a step up in my job. I can now afford a cleaner, or my job has taken a step up in the demands it has on me, so I need a cleaner for my own sanity. I don't have time anymore. People start New Year's resolutions. I'm going to keep my house tidy, or I'm going to give myself time back in the week. So we kind of just fall into that, I think, and we see a natural slight increase. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Are there financing arrangements? Now, I think this is specifically asking from the franchisee's perspective.
From the franchisee's perspective, I guess absolutely. Our subscription model, I think, could be classed as a way of financing your business. And I think it's a much less risky because I often have people say to me, oh, isn't a subscription just a loan then? And it's like, no, because you can cancel a subscription anytime. If you take out a loan for, let's say it's $26,600 for the cost of one of our franchises, you take a loan out for that. If you cancel, you've got the loan, you've still got to pay the full amount. Under our subscription model, you can cancel the subscription itself anytime and you'll just have to pay at least a total of 2 years, so it's not a loan, but it is a financing arrangement, I guess you could say. Would you agree?
Yeah, you could term it as that. I guess there would be a lot of people that do simply see it as that. Two things I think are important is there's no loan agreement in place. There is the subscription is covered off under our franchise agreement, but it's not a separate loan agreement. And then the second thing is that there's not an interest element that's payable. It's just a weekly fee. So I think those two things kind of separate it from your typical loan. There's no loan agreement and there's no interest payments. But if we look at it and we're kind of honest about it, then it is just another way to get someone into a business. That's another way to give an opportunity to access business ownership. And so, it is kind of a financing agreement. It's just not really atypical of a loan.
Yeah. And we do have businesses that we work with that for leasing, like we get some of our guys that want to upgrade and get a bigger lawn and garden trailer. Well, we have an organisation that provides leasing finance on those sorts of things. So, there's that available as well, but that's not so much us doing it anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Next question. I might take this one because it's kind of a simple one. Are there any owned units in the chain? No, there aren't. We don't own or operate any of the businesses in our network. Our model just simply doesn't have that as part of our strategy. Our purpose is very much to give individual families in this country the opportunity to own and operate their own business. And that's our purpose and we're focused on that. So you're never competing against a business that we own and operate. They don't exist. We don't own and operate any businesses in our network. They're all independent business owners.
Yeah.
How many franchisees renew their agreements? Do you want to take that one?
Yes, because my wife and I first joined James as regional franchisors. So over 15 years now, we've had a lot of people. Our agreement, our most common agreement's a 5-year term. So we've had many, I would say in our region, about half renew over time. And then of the remaining half, most sell either, prior to the renewal coming up. Particularly in North Queensland with the heat, I find a lot of garden guys after 4 or 5 years. I like Justin. I don't think my body can take another wet season, and put their business up, sell their business and move on. Yep. Occasionally people don't renew and move on, which I'll be honest, I can never understand. Like for my own self, you put your heart and soul into your business, you built an asset. I simply don't understand people walking away. And it's almost like buying a house and then just walking away from it. Like, wouldn't you put it on the market and sell? And yes, you mightn't find a buyer instantly. That's the other thing for people to keep in mind. You need to be realistic. You could have someone just ring up straight away, but it might take 6 or 12 months. In fact, we just took out a couple that just sold their business. We took them out for dinner last night that just sold their lawn business with us. And, they advertised for about 12 months and a great couple have just bought it, just finished the training and taken it over.
Yeah.
So, sorry, that's probably a long answer to a simple question.
No, I think more information is great. I think if we're just giving 2-word answers, we're not necessarily being full and completing the information that we're giving. Maybe another one for you. Who will be the main point of contact for me as a franchisee?
Okay. Every franchisee in our network has their own business coach dedicated to them. So there's 4 points of contact. Main point, first call, is your business coach. You'll also have someone deliver your practical training, and you'll develop a relationship with that individual. You can contact them at any time. You've got Joe at the call centre. You've got the other head office team, that you can contact, people like yourself, myself. And then you've got the franchise network around you as well. But your main point of contact is your business coach.
Yeah. And your business coach is critical in the success of your business, because if you're coming in, particularly without a lot of experience in running a business, or frankly, if you're coming in with no experience, then your business coach, they are the door to all of the information and the training and the support and the intelligence that you need in order to actually run a successful business in our network. So your business coach is a lifeline. Your business coach will, they'll be your biggest cheerleader, and then they'll also be the one to help you to understand where you can make improvements and tweaks to what you're doing as well. So, it's a really constructive relationship, and they really do make an enormous amount of difference. And we see that those franchisees that really engage wholeheartedly with their business coach, they get so much out of that relationship, and they ultimately end up being more successful than someone who disengages from their business coach in our network, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. How do franchisees and the franchisor connect with each other in the network? I think that's another you question.
Okay. So as a franchisor myself, I personally walk everybody through the information process to joining. So I get to know, I can honestly say I know every single franchisee in our network because I've walked the journey through with them. So, our franchisees, I hope, all feel comfortable that they can call me at any time. But we will have spent, if you're looking at joining James, we'll spend 8 to 10 hours at least together before you join. And then through that joining and training process, it's almost like a passing on to the business coach, from myself to the business coach. That transition happens. So then you're working with your business coach, as you were just alluding to.
Yep. Yeah. And also, you mentioned before that they have a practical trainer. Every franchisee has a practical trainer. So that's the person that actually trains you physically in how to do the work, either your cleaning or your on jobs. That person becomes just an absolute wealth of knowledge to you. And we hear often that our newer franchisees really lean on that connection over the first 3 to 4 months, particularly of their new business. Because if you've got questions about, hey, what product do I use on this particular stain here? Or I've got, an oven that's just being a little bit stubborn. What do I do here? Then they're your first port of call often for those sorts of things. So there's a good relationship between your practical trainer and yourself, a really practical one. In terms of connecting with other franchisees in the network, you've probably connected with a few on the way through our information process. We do what we call a Zoom around, where you actually get introduced to 3 or 4 other current franchisees in our network in your service. And you can connect with them at any time. You're given their contact details. You can reach out to them. You can ask more questions. You can get on the phone. We also have a closed Facebook group that all our franchisees are part of. And that's often a really great place for you to connect to other franchisees as well. So there's no limit to the ways that you can connect. We don't gatekeep everybody's information from each other. Also, you can go online on our website and you can find franchisees that are near you, and you can find their contact details, and you can reach out to them and catch up for a coffee or catch up over the phone. You are given all of the information, and it really is up to you just how much you connect with the other franchisees in the network.
Yeah.
All right. I'd love to take this next one because it's a big question. How do you help underperforming franchisees? I'm going to start right back at ground zero. I'm going to start before you're even a franchisee in our network. We go through a thorough assessment process to identify whether you are the right fit, you have a good attitude and the right level of willingness that we need for somebody in our network. And we really try and make an assessment before we approve you that you are someone who carries the characteristics of a successful business owner in our network. That's the first thing we do to help underperforming franchisees is we actually try not to have underperforming franchisees. Then we have what's called an onboarding process, and you alluded to this before, Justin, where it's not that you handball somebody over to the business coach. It's actually a very highly managed transition process. It's like passing the baby. You don't get just dumped by Justin once you've signed your franchise agreement. It's a very thoroughly thought out process, because my pet peeve is when I've gone through an information process or a sales process with a company, and then they literally just handball me to an account manager, and I feel like they just don't care about me. And we go to the other extreme to make you feel like we genuinely do care, because we do. So we go through a transition process to your business coach, again, to try and set you up for success. Then you are inducted into a 12-week accelerated startup program. We have a set coaching and training plan. We have targets for you to hit. We do not allow you to move to the next week before we have committed to all of the things and covered all of the content that we needed to with you in that week. Our focus is to keep you focused, keep you on track, keep you at level with your peers going through the onboarding process as well. Then we have a plethora of resources that we use as coaches internally to help us help you. So there are lots of resources that help us to determine what your specific break-even point is. There are resources to help us make sure that we're helping you to achieve that through practical strategies that address your own weaknesses and identify and leverage your own strengths. There is so much we do to make sure that we actually don't ever get to the point of having an underperforming franchisee. If we do have an underperforming franchisee, it's identified early. We know by week 3 or 4 whether you're underperforming or not. And by week 3 or 4, we are identifying that with you. We are diving in and we are locating the areas of concern, and we are coming up with a strategy to help you manage those. We implement a really straightforward action plan for you to follow, and then we walk alongside you and we help in any way we physically can to keep you on track and for your business to see progress. So I've just spent several minutes explaining what our frontward-facing activities are, because I think that's more important than what we do when you are underperforming. That's important. We have a system, we have a procedure, and we follow it with you. And the goal, obviously, is to get you back on track. But actually, the ultimate goal is that you don't get there in the first place. And we have a really important role to play in making sure that you don't. So I think most franchisors would just read that question and they would say, oh, well, when you're underperforming, we do A, B, and C. But I really wanted to give an answer that says, we do all the things before you get to that point. We have all the systems and processes in place to try and avoid that position.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. This one's going to be a quick one. How often will I need to refurbish the store or update equipment? Justin, do you want to take that one?
Well, we don't operate stores, so most of our guys work out of a vehicle.
Yep.
So, obviously you've got to maintain your vehicle and keep it looking good and that sort of stuff.
Yep. But
yes, there's updating equipment. Well, when your equipment breaks, I know in my own cleaning business, the only piece of equipment that had to that sort of thing happen would be the vacuum cleaners that generally lasted about 3 years. And then it was just a motor that needed replacing, which was just a plug-in, plug-out thing. So, next to nothing. Yeah.
I think this question is really aimed at those franchisors that are like retail establishments that have a storefront.
Exactly.
Because what can happen is in the franchise agreement, if the franchisor says, hey, we're doing a brand refresh and therefore, sort of over the last decade, we've seen McDonald's stores completely refresh their branding, completely refresh and overhaul the look of their stores. And that's a cost that is covered by the franchisee. And I think this question is really saying, hey, what extra financial costs could the franchisor surprise you with? And in our case, it's none. You're responsible for your vehicle, you're responsible for maintaining your equipment, but there are no other surprises that we can launch on you guys. Yep.
Yeah.
Is there a call centre for leads and how are these dispersed? Do you want to take that one?
Absolutely. Yes, there is a call centre. One of the things I love about our network, though, is we actually advertise your mobile number everywhere. Because for me personally, I don't like bringing a call centre. If I know someone's local and here's their number. So a lot of calls will be directed to your mobile. But if someone calls a call centre, part of our butler system that we spend all that money on, you and your business coach will work out what we call a privileged area. You also have a protected area. So any calls from within that, you as the franchisee will receive a text message and an email instantly with all the customer's details and what they're looking for if they've given us details.
So easy. It happens instantaneously, all via technology. It's a beautiful thing. 2 points that I think are important. A lead in your area will never be sent to anybody other than you. You are never competing against another franchisee in our network for that work. We are unique in that way. There are other networks that do not give you that territory privilege. We do. So if you are talking to multiple franchisors, please ask them that question and make sure you're comfortable with what the answer is. In our network, your territory is exclusive to you. There is no one else in our network that will ever be sent that customer's information. It's just you. And the second thing, we don't charge for those leads.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
We don't. You pay franchise fees. We're smart enough to incorporate what it costs us to generate leads into your franchise fees. We don't throw an extra charge on you for that. We don't think that that's fair and reasonable. That's not how we operate. Yeah, I think those are two important points to remember when we're talking about leads. Yep. How much control will I have over any ordering and choice of supplier? Do you want to take that one?
That's a really good question. One of the strengths of a franchise, you just mentioned McDonald's. If you want a Big Mac, you know what it's going to be like, whether you order one in Brisbane or Melbourne. There's that consistency. Well, there should be if it's a good franchisee. So, for example, where that question is relative to James, all of our businesses around Australia use the same chemicals. Okay, and we've managed to negotiate the same price anywhere in Australia. So they charge a flat delivery. I think it's $1 a kilo or $1 per litre. So everybody in James is using the same chemicals. You cannot just go into Woolies and buy Windex to clean a window, right? We have great chemicals. By and large, they're environmentally friendly. All of that is there. They're great products. I've used them myself for many years in our cleaning businesses. We still have them at home, to even using at home. They're really good. So to answer that question, you need to use the suppliers that James designates.
Yep.
All of our stationery comes from the one supplier. All of our uniforms come from another supplier. Our chemicals come from one supplier. There's consistency. Yep. If you find a great product that you think could be useful for James across the network, there's a process to put that forward so that we can check, to make sure for liability and all sorts of other reasons that it's suitable. And the other thing on that point I'll touch on too is we don't get any kickbacks from any suppliers on any of the products. So there's purely the products that we say these are the ones to use are because we think they're the best out there. And the suppliers give the best support. Like our chemical supplier, they're a smaller company, but their support, if you have any questions, they're brilliant. They go above and beyond every time.
Yeah, that's a really important point about us not getting kickbacks, because that can be another way that franchisors earn revenue in their business is that Absolutely. They control the sale of products to the franchisee, and either the products are branded their brand, so they are receiving all the proceeds, which means they're controlling the cost, which means they're controlling the profit margins, which means that they're passing that cost on to you as a business, and they are receiving the proceeds from that as another way to boost their bottom line. And there's nothing wrong with operating as that model. We choose not to. We choose instead just simply to go out to an open market, select the most competitive supplier for whatever we need, broker a relationship with that company, and then hook the franchisees in our network to that company. Our uniform provider is wonderful. They have an online portal. You just go online, you order whatever you want from our own little portal. Everything's branded, everything's in there. You can't go wrong. It makes it so easy. as you mentioned, the support from our chemical provider is second to none. Their support is incredible. We have franchisees all the time that if they're not quite sure how to deal with a particular stain somewhere, they'll ring our chemical provider and say, hey, what's the best product and strategy to use on this? And he is always available. They're so helpful. So there's absolute perks to your franchisor doing the work to hook you up with great suppliers. And in our network, we don't look to receive any kickback from that. We do it because we think that that's the best way to help our franchisees run great businesses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Will I get any help with staff recruitment and training?
Absolutely. Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, happy to, actually. We have a whole training manual around assisting our franchisees to grow their business through staff. And very recently, that training manual had a whole evolution and overhaul into a 4-stage process that our business coaches are fully trained and competent in taking any franchisee who wants to add staff to their teams through that 4-stage process. And the process isn't just, oh, you want staff, great, let's go advertise and hope for the best. The process is, okay, you want staff? All right, let's actually do some upfront planning around business growth and development. What are your objectives? Why are you looking for staff? Let's get the picture straight. Then we do financial assessment. Can you afford staff right now? If you can't right now, what targets do you need to meet in the next 3 to 6 months to be able to afford staff? Therefore, what growth activities do you need to do in that time? We give you a plan. Then we dive into a recruitment process, and then we dive into managing and onboarding of that new person process. So I'm really proud of this new procedure that we've got. It's just, you put one foot forward in front, just one foot after the other. It's just we walk you through a very simple process that makes a lot of sense, and we give you full support in that. We tell you everything you need to know about how to pay your staff. We give you access to our bookkeeper and our accountant in-house to help set up your accounting software for staff, training in that software for staff. We just try and make it as easy as possible because we have a lot of businesses in our network who are on the fence. Well, I want staff because I want growth in my business, but I don't know that I know enough about how to employ staff. And so we've really evolved our training manual significantly in the last couple of months. And in fact, one of our internal goals for 2025 is actually for any of our franchisees who are looking to employ staff, we really want to actually step them through this new 4-stage process and really make some strides toward having more staff in more of our businesses in our network because the demand from our franchisees for that support is there.
Yeah.
All righty, we are down to only a couple more questions. What minimum orders or benchmarks do I have to meet? i.e., does the franchisor stipulate targets that the franchisee must meet?
Well, that's a good question.
We don't. We really don't. The only target is a target driven by the franchisee. And that target is initially, in the first few months, what is your break-even point?
Good.
And then after that, what is your ideal weekly revenue? Those targets are not set by us. We don't have a blanket target. Every franchise business in our network needs to earn X. Every franchise business in our network over 2 years old needs to employ X number of staff. We don't have those targets. What we do is work alongside the franchisee to determine on a very individual basis what their own business targets are. And then we bespoke build out an action plan and a growth plan to get them toward those targets. There are franchise networks who have targets for franchisees to meet. And I think that's what that question is pointing to. Do you guys have targets that you place on the businesses in your network? And we don't. We think it's far healthier to be driven by what the franchisee's targets are rather than by us putting a blanket over everyone.
Yeah, that's good.
Is there an optimum time to open a business? Do you want to take that one?
Yes. So I'll speak about our two main ones. So cleaning, the only time that I would say not to open, one of the things we've learned is you don't want to be starting just before Christmas. right? Because you go through your training, and we've had this happen in the early days where you come out of training, you're all excited. It's a week or two before Christmas and you're out there to build your customers and no one wants to talk to you because they're either on holidays or they're winding down or whatever. So we won't start a business sort of in those 2 weeks before Chrissy. Other than that, for a cleaning business, all year round, it is perfect. Lawn and garden business, the same applies for that Christmas couple of weeks before. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we won't start someone sort of between May and August in most states of Australia just because of that winter factor, that it's much harder to build through winter because people aren't looking generally for those sort of services. So we start people in spring.
Yeah, perfect. If the grass isn't growing, then people aren't ringing you to come mow it for them. It's very simple. We'll say probably an ideal time to start a business is in the new year, because before I mentioned that the national trend is a slight increase in inquiry throughout that end of Jan, Feb, March, April period. So we do find that businesses that start at the beginning of the year, they benefit from that slight uptick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question 19 of 20, we're almost there. Who finds the site? Very simple, no one. There is no site. You're a mobile business in our network, so there's no premise required. So no one finds a site because we don't need one. Justin?
Sorry, I will add to that. Every business that has what we call a protected area.
Yeah.
So that would be the only relevance for us is a protected area, and that we determine together.
Yep.
Our recommendation is it's always around where you live, particularly from a Google, from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Final question, definitely a Justin question. What are the criteria you use to select franchisees?
I recommend watching the podcast that we just did. We just did the episode that we just recorded because we answered this particular question over about an hour. So the main thing we look for is willingness to learn. Doesn't matter. We talk in this podcast, in the episode about skill level. Doesn't matter if you have low skills. That's not a stress because we help there. It's the willingness. You've got to be willing to learn, to take on board help, to follow systems, to be prepared to grow, to be prepared to get out of your comfort zone because when you start a business, you're going to be uncomfortable. Some of the other criteria, you've got to have basic financials, some basic savings behind yourself. Yes, it's only $1,000 under our subscription to start, but you need to be able to support yourselves if the business has a slower start. And there's going to be a couple of weeks of training where you're not earning income. You've got to be able to support yourself. So those are the main things that we look for.
Yep. And there's another video that anybody really interested in selection criteria can check out as well. It's called the 2% Club, and I believe it was episode 1. And it is that of everybody who inquires, only 2% end up joining our network. And that video specifically talks about who is more likely to be successful and what are the selection criteria that we're looking for. So that's a really informative episode to check out if you're interested as well.
Yep.
That brings an end to the 20 questions. I hope that's been really helpful for anybody watching. If you're still watching, congratulations on making it this far. You're obviously, really interested in learning more about our network. And if that's the case, I would encourage you to watch as many of these episodes as you feel is helpful. Our blog is also jam-packed full of really informative articles. We try to only put blog posts up that are actually valuable, that we don't put stuff up for the sake of just putting up a post. We try and make it really rich in information, and we try and make it really honest information. If you've got any topics that you ever want us to discuss, throw it in the comments. Justin, did you have anything else to add? We've covered ground in this video.
And if you have any specific questions, as always, feel free to pick up the phone, send me an email, whatever, book a Zoom. We can catch up one-on-one, and that's what I do with people. Because it's a very open, as you can see, transparent process. We just walk people through.
Yep, perfect. Well, let's leave this episode here. And thanks everybody again for listening. And we hope that you'll join us very soon in another episode of The Real Franchise.